All right, hello everybody. Today we're back in the Forge talking about a slightly out of left field topic here. We're just going to be discussing sort of what we want to see in a potential GTA 6 game. And this is coming from two fans who have played pretty much every GTA game in the franchise so far. So we sort of know what we like and what we maybe dislike about the game. So we'd love to just get right into it and give a few ideas as to what we'd love to see. So I'll let you start with what you'd like to see first in a GTA 6.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll start with like a multiple cities option. So the big rumor is that it's going to be back in Vice City, which I think is an excellent setting. Have absolutely no qualms with that whatsoever. I think it would be really good though if we could have like Vice City as one area, and then also potentially travel to, like say, another city, whatever it may be. Something that we haven't seen, for example, in GTA games for quite some time, and then as a once-off back in the day when it was the old bird's eye view on PS1, is London. It was not a real version of London, but it would be really cool if they made a more real version of London, perhaps as the other city. And this ties in with the whole three characters option that they had in GTA 5, which I thought was a real good innovation. And they had three really compelling characters with their own stories that intertwined and had various abilities and whatnot. It could be really awesome if there was, like, say, two characters in, say, Vice City, and then one from, say, London, and then somehow they cross over, but you can equally get to both cities or something. I don't know. I know you wouldn't be able to drive to them, but maybe you could, I don't know, like take a flight, for example, go to the airport. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that would be a pretty good idea because I think definitely, in GTA 5, the big innovation with the three separate characters that had, they had a lot of time separately, but then they also had the times where, the one that comes to mind for me is when early on when Michael and Franklin, I think Franklin stole Michael's car and Michael like held him at gunpoint in the car, and then eventually they sort of team up. So it's just interactions like that between two different characters that you can play as and have different perspectives for is a really cool idea for a GTA game. And I agree. I think multiple cities is definitely something they could do. In GTA 5, Los Santos was only like half the map anyways. The other half was the big open area to the north. And then they also had that snowy region as well for some of the tutorial missions, which I think they went back to later on. So definitely, like, the technology's there, and I think that would be a fantastic innovation. Another thing I would love to see in regards to the map is maybe going a bit closer to what GTA 5 did, but sort of doing it even better. So this is with going into the interiors of a lot of buildings. I think GTA 5 sort of lost this, and I think GTA 4 had a lot more buildings you could enter. There was like the burger shots and all the other like fast food places. And I think maybe this is coming from a place of bias because I just love those places for holding out against the cops when you get 5 stars and you're just playing around, maybe after completing the story. But I think there's definitely room for locations like that to exist in the story as well. So I think they should definitely see if they could bring that back for GTA 6.
Yeah, so I'd even go a little bit further than that and say a couple of things. There's no reason why you can't still do bigger, but still do that, more in depth and more buildings and more kind of things to do with that bigger. Now with GTA 4, which I thought was kind of one of those things that we all loved, was the fact that you could go and hang out with cousin Roman. Hey Nico, let's go bowling. That was amazing, right? It was memeable, but it was fun. And then you had the girlfriend that you went on dates with, and you actually did the date if you wanted to. You could skip it, but you could also go in and actually do the bowling or whatever it was. That disappeared. So when you hung out with Franklin or Michael or whoever, like, you just saw them coming out drunk afterwards, right? Like, it wasn't really, you didn't see it. Plus, GTA 4 had this comedy club, which, you'd go into, and it was Ricky Gervais or I think Dave Chappelle or whoever it was that was pre-recorded but was essentially performing there, which is like really cool. And then they kind of went away from that, and it was like GTA 5 was definitely a better game, but it was less it felt less GTA, to be honest, in some regards. So I mean, I guess what we're saying is also we'd like them to go a bit more back to the kind of GTA roots, have that kind of ability, and as I said, I don't see why with modern technology you can't do both, go bigger and go more in depth, right?
Yeah, and I definitely think Rockstar are one of the companies that always manage to
to do both at the same time. So I think I reckon if they are going to release GTA 6, they're not going to skimp out on it. Like GTA is definitely their
Well, they've
their
sure
big
taken their time
flagship.
about it. Like,
They
so
are. So yeah, hopefully they've got a lot in store for us.
I would also say that like we did the review of Red Dead Redemption that's also out, and it's something that we mentioned with some of the conversation options, in Red Dead. But I think this is true about a couple of other things. I feel like Red Dead 2 was almost like a beta run for like what they were going to put into the next GTA. So with those, like, you could talk to every NPC and you could like antagonize them or whatever it was. There was a bit more flexibility around it, and you felt like it wasn't quite a finished article, but it was definitely a good work in progress. But you also, you could in what's the city, like the New Orleans style city in Red Dead Redemption called again? I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but you could go there. Thank you, Saint Denis, and you could go to the theater, for example, and watch a freak show, or watch a performance and heckle them and all the rest of it. Like, you could do that stuff. So like that is something that they took out of GTA 5, and I think that it would be kind of cool that if they put it back in. And the thing with these games is, particularly Rockstars, they always go for like realism with certain things, but not like with everything, which is obviously impossible to do, truly. But I like to see like I don't know, let's say they bring in a feature where, like, how your horse gets tired, has stamina, and you need to clean the horse and you need to clean your gun, otherwise you can't use it. What if they added in, say, like, you have a car and it has a fuel gauge, and so that makes you think. And this is something that you and I have discussed on a game that we've kind of been like for a few years kind of banding around as an idea. But this idea where, like, you have to think about planning that too, like before you go into a mission where you might have a big long, like police chase. Maybe you need to make sure you've got a full tank. Like, why not?
Yeah, I think that's something that in GTA, maybe if people don't like that, there's always been cheats in GTA anyway, so they can always just maybe type in a cheat on your phone whilst you're in a car and just switch off the fuel feature. But I think it would be pretty cool during even during story missions where, like, you got to actually pick your vehicle properly, fill it up before you're doing anything, and yeah, especially when it comes to maybe even some of the other vehicles, like helicopters or planes. If you don't have your plane fueled when it runs out in flight, like, you're going to die, or unless you have
well, I reckon
a parachute or something. So
that one might be one of those parts potentially where if you were making the game, you don't maybe put in fuel for a flying vehicle, just for, or certain vehicles. But this is like one of those things where maybe they have like a full electric car and you fill up with electric, and let's say in the game the electric car goes obviously a lot longer, or just a few little things like that maybe people might say it's putting a bit too picky, but like, it adds an extra level of realism, it adds an extra level of depth, and can add in certain elements to the game. But you could do it in a way where, like, every car that you steal from someone, let's say, is full no matter what, right? But like, once you start driving it a bit, obviously it goes down, and it might make you think about how hard you accelerate, and if there's a hill, maybe you just coast it or whatever a little bit. I don't know, like, maybe it's just one of those things that has people have thought about, game developers have thought about, and it just hasn't quite worked in testing or whatever. But I think it would add a good element to it. And also, on that note, like, have you ever noticed how the police, like in the old GTA games, you could essentially give up. You could essentially just be busted instead of wasted, right?
yeah.
Well, how come in GTA 5, like, I think I've played that game a lot, and I think I got busted once, not wasted. So I don't know, I'd quite like there to be maybe an option where you can sort of just throw your hands up, maybe like give up, or maybe when you're on 1 star, like, they don't just come. I know it's a satire, but they don't just come in shooting straight away. Like, maybe they start with the batons first and then they go to shooting, like, just like if they see you with a weapon, for example. Like, I don't know. And going back on that buildings thing, but in GTA 4, when you went to the hospital, you could actually go in the hospital and into like operating rooms and shit.
Yeah.
And like, you could go into the police station and steal that big purple dildo as a weapon. Like, why can't you do that in GTA 5? It's just weird that they sort of omit that, but like, there's a couple of missions where you do go in, but other than that, it's nothing. Or, you know, when you go into a bank on GTA 5, like, there might be one person working in there and there's a safe out the back, but, you know, you can never actually get into it. It's like just a sort of dead room almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it's I definitely think they took maybe they cut some corners, or maybe they just decided to move away from what they did in GTA 4. But I definitely think GTA 6 needs to recognize that some of those features were actually pretty good. And I think, obviously, I think in GTA 5 it's a bit of a satire on you know, modern day issues that people have with the police, where, you know, people are always talking about how police you know, just come out shooting in real life. And I think in GTA, obviously,
police brutality and injuries and everything else, and I get that. And there's a lot of other stuff. That's why the beer is called Pisswasser. Like, you know, and all the rest of it. Is it Life Invader? Was that the one? GTA 5. You know, so there's definitely satire around, and I think that's great. But you know, I also think, like, you can still have that satire and some of those elements in, like, for example, just as a case in point, like, imagine you're driving around, like, Miami, for example, and one of the radio stations is like an in-game version of, like, InfoWars with, like, an Alex Jones ranting about turning the freaking frogs gay or something on the game. Like, that would be kind of awesome. Like, not gonna lie. And, like, you know, maybe you can shape your character a little bit more. Like, if you have 3 characters, you have 3 whole different options. Like, maybe one of them is a conspiracy theorist guy, right? That, like,
the Trevor.
Yeah, like, for example, that goes to, like, the pizza restaurant from Pizzagate and, like, shoots them up or whatever, or thinks they're hunting pedos and whatever else, you know, and that's part of their story arc. Or, you know, maybe one of them's like a kind of a police detective or something, rather than just always being a criminal, but a police detective that kind of gets pulled in, you know, and originally is on the other side for these characters, but then gets pulled into a conspiracy or something. I don't know, like, but I'm not, like, here to tell them what story to write, but, like, that kind of thing just adds those extra levels, you know, like Michael, Franklin, and Trevor's story obviously was all pretty okay in its own way. They were not bad stories and good characters and everything, but they were all basically just criminals from the start, right? Like, it would be kind of cool to see a bit of extra complexity. And I guess the other thing I was thinking with this is also what kind of weapons, what kind of cars, like, what do we want to see, like, in there? Because GTA 5 also dropped out a lot of classic weapon types, or made them harder to get hold of. And there were some weapons that you could get with one character, but you actually couldn't get with another character. So I think that's another thing I'd like to see, is some of the classic weapons, like flamethrowers. Couldn't get a flamethrower on GTA 5 unless I completely missed it.
Yeah, I don't remember there being a flamethrower either, and I've played it for, you know, a few hundred hours, so...
And that was amazing fun. On, like, I remember on Vice City speaking of that place, going back on that with Tommy Bassetti, and just creating, like, a fire circle around me so no one could actually get in and kill me or arrest me for a while. Like, that stuff was awesome. And I've already alluded to cars a little bit, like potentially having, like, an electric car, for example, like a Tesla style or something. But, like, I reckon, like, just, I think something that, you know, it's called Grand Theft Auto. Like, the game title is about fucking stealing cars, so cars are obviously a big thing in this. And they've always done this thing where obviously they don't pay for licenses or whatever, and they've gradually got more and more choice, but it's still not the strongest choices, I think, overall. Like, I don't know, I don't know, it just felt GTA 5 was a decent amount of choice, but it wasn't, like, absolutely incredible. It would be great if they just had a bit more choice again, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and I think there's a lot of room for them to add in that sphere as well. I think there's, you know, vehicles are something that I think people love about the game, and I think adding, you know, just more options or more, you know, more high-end vehicles and more low-end vehicles and more vehicles sort of in the middle is definitely something that they could easily do, and should easily do as well, because, yeah, I definitely think there's no reason why we shouldn't just see more on the road.
Yeah. So I guess there's a few things like that, and I mean, like, I've already alluded to some of the story. Like, you know, I feel like another potential element of realism could be in one of the characters maybe having some kind of disease, like, I don't know, let's say diabetes, and maybe, you know, you physically have to eat with that character every so often, and that, you know, obviously they've done that a bit with, like, Arthur Morgan with his illness in Red Dead 2, for example, where you have to take tablets or something, I think, if I remember
later
right.
on, he gets tuberculosis, and there's
Right, and so like there's an element of that they could bring in where maybe you have a character that's like ill or whatever, or that maybe your conspiracy theory guy has to take like Ritalin every so often or whatever, and you see like, you know, say the end of a certain crazy, maybe he's a Trevor Phillips style crazy person, and you have this mission where he goes crazy, and then at the end he takes some Ritalin and has a nice little sleep and feels better afterwards. I don't know, like something like that would be kind of funny, which I'm sure they're always going to be good at. The other thing I think I wanted to say was like graphically, sorry. GTA 5 was really strong in some aspects graphically. I felt like there were parts where it looked great, but then there were other parts that like didn't feel realistic at all. For example, the loading, maybe it's not graphics, maybe it's something in coding, but the loading of cars, like sometimes when you really needed one and you're in the middle of a motorway part, like you just wouldn't see one for absolutely ages, right? Or, for example, and this has always been a thing, when you got a really rare car that was really hard to find, and then because they can only load like 8 or 9 cars at a time, suddenly you see it 3 times in the space of like, you know, five like a minute. It's like I've spent this whole game trying to find this car, and suddenly it's all there. It would be really cool if when you get a rare car, it's still a rare car. I don't know.
Yeah, I think definitely with like the car spawning, they could definitely increase that with a higher power system. I think with GTA 5 especially, at launch it was pretty bad. I think after they ported it to the like PS4 and Xbox One and gave it like, you know, the sort of graphical update and added like all the new features, like they added animals, they added like the first person perspective mode, like that sort of thing. I think all of that stuff I would love to see just carried over straight away to GTA 6. Like
Yes.
you know, no like post launch like or day one patch. Like I want to see it like straight away, really.
I have one complaint about the first person mode, by the way.
Oh yeah.
It's great. I love it, except for when you're driving. It makes it incredibly
it's almost
hard.
impossible. Yeah, well, which is actually kind of fun in and of itself, in my opinion. Just like kind of struggling with the driving. Yeah.
When you're kind of messing about and just having a laugh, and you know, but when you've got like an aim or a purpose that you're trying to do, like it makes it quite hard.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's why even in you know, a game that might be somewhat similar to GTA when it comes out, Cyberpunk 2077, they've you know, they have the first person for everything except for driving, because I guess driving in first person is you know, just not very easy to do in games at all.
I think it's just a controller thing, isn't it? It's like you use
Yeah.
the right stick to change the camera, but when you're driving, that makes you kind of turn a bit more or whatever. But yeah, it's not easy. You'd almost need 3 like joysticks, which is just ridiculous on a controller. Like, or on whatever. It's not just not easy. So I mean, those are a few things that I want to see.
Turning the wheel and
Yeah, like just yeah, that's right. I mean, I think that like if they just do what Cyberpunk's doing, that probably fixes that one for me. You know, in terms of everything else. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't like have a view from inside the car. It's just maybe not complete first person. I don't know. Because like obviously like games like Gran Turismo and Forza have done, you know, different camera angles whilst driving for a long time now, and it works. Like you can have the from behind the car, from a bit further behind the car, and then from like just inside the windscreen type view, right? Like you can still do that if you wanted to, but I mean, it is what it is. So yeah, I mean, I think there's just a bit more, like more things to do. Maybe more weapons. I don't know about more weapons. Just like a lot of the weapons in GTA 5 were kind of like the same weapon as the previous one. Like not that much different. So it felt like they kind of wasted slots on those almost.
Or especially when there's obvious things that they missed out that could have just been in there. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think, you know, maybe a bit more selection on like, even though this is like one of the best games for customization, obviously of your character, like I'm gonna just even throw this out there, more customization would be awesome. Like haircuts, for example, is fairly limited per character. Like one character can't have the same haircut as the other one, and I get that they're different, but at the same time, like, you know, maybe I didn't want to give, I don't know, someone a certain cut, but I wanted to give the other person that cut, but I can't because it's limited that way. Like, and also a small complaint that goes back to the Red Dead Redemption rating video that we made. If you go around the side or try and get around the side to flank them, you shouldn't get a mission failed. That's just another thing that I just think I don't want to see in the next GTA game.
Yeah, I think that's a bit of a Rockstar problem in general, and yeah, that's definitely maybe the biggest point from this video as well. It's just I really hope to see them return to sort of form with in terms of freedom and how you can complete missions. Because the whole game is a sandbox, and when you come to the missions, it's like you're no longer able to tackle them in whatever way you want. You can't like go across the street and maybe use a sniper. If the game wants you to do it in a specific way, that's just the only way you can do it. And there's not even like a warning. It's just like, yeah, mission failed, like wasted. You went the wrong way or something. Like there's no in between. So yeah, I definitely hope a GTA 6 would maybe improve upon that as well.
Absolutely. All right. So a lot to do, but most of it I think just relates to building what's already worked and coming back to some of the things that used to work, I think.
Yep, I think that pretty much sums it up. So yeah, I guess with that, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully, not that Rockstar will be watching this, but if they do, hopefully you take what we said to heart. It's coming from a place of love. We're fans of the series. We'd love to see these things in it. We're not really criticizing the games at all. It's just things that we would love to see personally.
Absolutely. This isn't to fix the game. This is just to take it from possibly the best game that's been made to definitely the best game that's been made. Like, really, is what we're saying. So yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. And if you have any ideas of your own, let us know down below.
Yep, thanks for watching. Bye, guys.
Yeah.